evening, everyone, and I want to thank you for joining me for tonight's conversation. I am so excited to introduce all of you to two people who have had a profound impact on my life and theology. They probably don't know this, but they have explained the scriptures to me in a particular area simply by living out the principles of scripture in front of me pretty much for my entire life, since my childhood. And this is part 2 of a short teaching series that I'm doing on the dignity of the disabled. And in part 1 of this series, I laid out the biblical framework for the dignity of the disabled from a historically Christian viewpoint. Tonight, what we're going to do is translate that into real life as we talk to a very special couple about their journey as parents of a disabled child. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. All right, we'll go to this camera. Now, you might be wondering, why am I covering this topic? And as I said in part 1 of this series, it's because we live in what Christian philosopher Dr. Francis Schaeffer called 40 years ago, a culture of death. And I think that part of living in this cultural moment requires Christians to have clarity about certain issues. And the inherent dignity of the disabled is one of those issues that Christians have historically been known for. So as we go through the conversation tonight, I want to invite you to add your voice. You can engage with us in the chat box on YouTube. You can ask clarifying questions there. Now, this is a pre-recorded conversation, so we are not live tonight, but I will be in the chat box during the premiere and will respond to comments and questions there as they are relevant. And while you're watching, also be sure to give a thumbs up to the broadcast, share it out, especially if you know somebody where this content would be an encouragement to them. And in their particular situation, share this content and make sure you're subscribed. These are all things that help to the artificial intelligence on YouTube and Facebook to help push this content out to the people that need it. So if you are new to my channel, I always like to start by saying that this channel is dedicated to proclaiming the historic Christian faith as it was taught and preserved by the ancient church, and to explore how we can respond to what's happening in our culture through the lens of the historic Christian worldview. And this is not the channel where we do any sort of magic tricks with the Bible to make it fit with what our culture is telling us what is right. We look to the scriptures first to shape our thoughts and feelings, our opinions, our life choices. And we use the example of the early church as sort of a check or a boundary. Sometimes I call them guardrails to help keep us from wandering from the true faith. Now, with that said, let's get into this. I want to introduce you to two people who have been very influential in my own life and theology. My aunt and uncle, Virgil and Pat Leih. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's fun to be here.
Well, this is like a dream come true. I've been dreaming of having you guys on and doing this conversation for a few years now. So I'm super honored to have you share some of your journey tonight.
So Krista, full disclosure.
Yeah.
You may want to tell your audience, or maybe you've already told them, that you're my absolute favorite niece. Okay. I think that needs to be said. And the second thing is, you're my favorite theologian.
Oh, that's very kind. Well, maybe we should start by telling people a little bit about yourselves. And you're both like so accomplished. We could have a whole show just with each of you of all of your accomplishments. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourselves and give people some context about you. I don't know, pick one thing. Just tell us something.
You want me to start? Well, I grew up in California, not too far from where Krista is, and Krista's grandfather, my dad, was a pastor, and as my grandfather was, Krista's great grandfather, and So I went to school in California and then came back to Minnesota for seminary and spent 4 years in seminary. Served a couple of churches here in the metro area, Colonial Church of Edina and Christ Presbyterian Church in Edina. It's really odd to serve two churches in the same town, and spent 30 years in the executive recruiting business. And for fun and avocation, I do some wood artwork. And Pat and I are both now retired. And so we've gone from a home to this condo. And so this is kind of where we are in life. And I think my mom is really concerned about my career path, that I can't seem to find a straight line. So we'll keep working on it, though.
So you've been a pastor, you're an artist, you've been an executive recruiter. It's a diverse resume. Yeah, and you can't unless I tell you how it happened. You just can't connect the dots. That's right. All right, Pat. Why don't you're just amazingly accomplished too. Maybe you can give us a snapshot of your background.
Well, I grew up in Minnesota. I'm a Swede. And I went to Bethel College and then went on to Bethel Seminary. It was kind of a convoluted journey there. But while I was in seminary, I met Virg. And then through one of my professors, I was actually hired at Colonial Church of Edina. And I was in the ministry for 10 years and then began going into the business world and started doing some training. And then when the whole concept of project manager came along, that's kind of was my little slot that said, hey, you belong here. And so I did project management for 30 years. So it's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun. We feel very blessed. And we're just thrilled to be with you today, Krista.
Well, it's an honor, really. And so you're both former ministers, both former corporate people, and I love that. And you guys have both had just such an impact on me throughout my life and just encouraging me. I'll never forget like all the little talks you would give to me over the holidays when we'd see each other on making something of myself and having goals and telling me like not to be lazy and go to college and work hard and all of these things that I've tried to live out in my life. And, just so grateful for all of the impact you guys, you probably don't even know because we're not a family that really talks about things like this very often. But, just all of the impact you guys have had on me in kitchen conversations and telling me, to do the right thing and be strong and all of those things. And now those are all things I try to teach to my own children. So, thank you.
Well, just in full disclosure, we're very proud of you, Krista.
Oh, thank you.
It's been fun watching your life and you develop along with Bob. It's just been a pleasure.
Oh, and I do get the letters from time to time because I have on my website as part of my bio that I'm a fourth generation minister of sorts. And I do get the hate mail. People are highly offended by that. But it's like, well, look, my great grandfather, my grandfather, my aunts, my uncle, I'm in that line. I can claim that line.
Yes, you can.
So, well, tell us a little bit about your family, your daughter, talking to us a little bit about your situation and how she came to be a part of your family.
We decided after being married for 5 years that maybe we would have a child, and we were not able to do that ourselves, so we adopted. Corbin came from Korea. She was 3 months old when she arrived. She was beautiful. She really was. I often say that little teeny picture that you get when you first get a picture of your child and you're adopting, that's about 1 inch by 1 inch, is as valuable to an adoptive parent as is the ultrasound pictures that you have.
Yeah.
It was a very exciting time for us. After about 2 years, it was really your grandmother who noticed the first kind of odd thing about Corbin in relationship to some hand movements that were a little bit strange. And as she approached 2 years old, things became a little bit more difficult. We realized then that she was having a profound seizure disorder. Started out with a lot of petit mals, went into grand mal. So we had a grand mal about once every 6 months, every quarter. And they just kept getting worse and worse. So we also found out, so our neurologist also told us that he felt she was having a lot of what they call petit mal seizures, which is just kind of an absent seizure where she would be functioning, but then she'd be gone for a second or two. So that's kind of how it all began. She's always been a fun kid. She was in the beginning a challenge because she was just wild, but they told us it was because she felt like she was having a telephone ringing in her head every 7 seconds.
Wow.
But it was, those first years were very difficult for us.
I can only imagine that maybe at sometimes you kind of felt like you were, for lack of a better word, sort of drowning, like what is happening, and you're trying to get medical answers and cope with the everyday realities of what you were going through.
Absolutely.
Well, it's really interesting. There's a little thing I'd like to read here, and this totally tells you what it would feel like. And it says, I'm often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with a disability, to try to help people who have not shared that unique experience to understand it. To imagine how it would feel, it would be like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and make wonderful plans. You're thinking about the Colosseum, the Michelangelos, you'll see the gondolas in Venice. You may even learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very, very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack up your bags to go to Italy. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, welcome to Holland. Holland, you say? What do you mean Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life I've dreamed of going to Italy. But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland and there you must stay. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine, and disease. It's just a different place. So you must go out and buy new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you will meet a whole new group of people you would never have met before. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy. But after you've been there for a while and you catch your breath, you look around and you begin to notice that Holland has windmills, and Holland has tulips. Holland even has Rembrandts. But everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy, and they're all bragging about what a wonderful time they're having there. And for the rest of your life, you will say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go too. That's what I had planned. And the pain of that will never, ever go away, because the loss of that dream is a very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to Italy, you may never be free to enjoy the very special, the very lovely things about Holland. And that's exactly how it feels.
Mm-hmm. That's really a wonderful story. Now, did you write that?
No,
you just
someone gave it to me. It's just,
but it really resonates with you. Like,
it really does.
Yeah.
Because there are so many plans that you had, so many dreams that you have when you think about having your own child.
Yeah.
And those things won't happen with us. They won't happen with our child. And you just have to really change your whole perspective and begin looking at what you do have and who Corbin is.
Yeah.
What talents and gifts has she been given by God?
You know, one of the things that they say about special needs children is that get prepared, because people are going to show up that you never imagined, and they're going to come alongside you for a season in your life, and they're really, really going to help you. get through this. A bunch of the people that you thought would be the people that would help you don't end up showing up. Some people in our lives and in our relationships, once they realized that we had a special needs child, they began to move away, like maybe this is a disease or something, or they didn't know what to say. They didn't know how to approach us, and so they just disappeared. And for maybe some of your audience, that is something that they would maybe be able to process and to try to understand that when this happens in your family or to somebody that you've got a couple of choices. One is to move away or to move toward. And I hope that from just listening to some of this, that you won't abandon your friends and family, that you will move in to be part of their support group and to help them, because everybody's in uncharted territory. And so I think that as people process this kind of thing, there were people that came to us early on, which was such a blessing. And one of the things I remember them saying is, Corbin will always live in an adult world. Always. She will not live in a child's world. She'll live in an adult world. So get her ready long-term to live in that adult world. Work with her to become predictably, as much as you can, appropriate in all of these settings. She's never gone to actual Sunday school. She's always gone to worship with us. And, and if you watch her while the songs are going, I mean, there's something going on there. She understands to a certain degree. And, we're doing we always do a lot of hooting and hollering. We want her to stay happy. And one of the things that, we do in the car is, everyone who loves Jesus, put up your hand. And boy, her hand straight up. We had young women that lived with us to help us take care of Corbin. And there must have been 10 of them. They would come for 1 to 2 years. They'd go to college. Most of them, is interesting, were Catholic young women from the rural areas, farm girls. And they came alongside us to help us. They lived in with us, and they went to community college to get ready for university.
And it was a big decision to decide to have somebody come and live with you, especially when you don't have a huge house, but, it's just like having another individual living with you.
Yeah. I want to paint that picture for people a little bit to help them understand, kind of one of the things that you've done in your journey to try to help get some help with the care is you had these girls, you would recruit these girls. I remember times when I would be visiting you in the summer and you would have to leave to go interview somebody. You would really interview them like a job interview and try to see who would be a good fit to come live in your house and kind of help Corbin with her routines. And then they would go to school when she was in school, and they would be there during the week to try to help. Maybe tell us a little bit about how that idea came to you and what you did with that.
Well, I think I knew that I needed to continue working. I could not just focus my life on trying to deal with Corbin. I saw a lot of women who did that, and I knew that I needed to keep living. And so we decided to try it for just a little bit of time because it was getting harder and harder to find babysitters. The one that we did have from the very first summer that we had Corbin went to college. And so we didn't have somebody that was kind of around all the time that we could just call in. So we decided to have somebody come and live with us. And with Virgil being in the ministry, there was a lot of evenings when it would be helpful if I could be there too. Weekends and Sundays were a real issue for us because I was involved as a pastor's wife in the church as well. So we had to figure out something that would work. And this did work. We had always thought we'd have a second child. So, it was kind of like having a second child, except all of a sudden they came when they were freshmen in college.
Yeah. So
but it was extremely helpful. And in its own way, I think it's become a ministry in relationship to them. We still have relationships with them. They brought so much into our lives, and it turned out to be so enjoyable.
That's great. So I'm wondering, Pat, you made both of you made a comment earlier about how, there were some people that kind of drifted away in your life, and then there was unexpected people who came into your life. What would be your thoughts about how people could support a couple when they're in your situation? Like, what would have been helpful maybe in the beginning and in the middle of your journey?
One of the things that comes to my mind is people would say to us, and I know they meant this in the most positive way, is, boy, God really had his wisdom in place when, he selected you two to take care of Corbin. And, my attitude about that was, well, you've got a normal child, and next time you go stand in the line I was in, and I'm going to go stand in the line you were in, because I would like to have all of the experiences of going with Corbin to athletic events and going to be involved with proms and girls soccer and ultimately falling in love and getting married and having grandchildren and all that. All of that gets changed. So one of the things I would suggest to your audience is that they don't ever say that to somebody.
Don't say that. Don't do it that way.
Don't do it that way.
Don't do it that way. Think of another way to say that without saying it.
That's good. That's good.
In quite that way. But we had some very dear friends. I mean, we had a very small wedding, and people that were at that wedding would take us off one couple took us off to the side, and they said, Pat and Virg, you've got so much to offer a normal child that is not going to really be tapped into with Corbin. And what we think you ought to do is probably, just commit her to the state. And then you go on with your lives and adopt another child, one that is whole and one that you can pour the resources that you have available into that child, and to have that child really become something. And I was so floored that anybody would say that, first of all. But if people don't necessarily verbalize it, just the fact that that they would think this is, we have known families that could not deal with this. It's very, very hard on a relationship. There's an 80%, you help me here, Pat, maybe I'm overstating this, but there's an 80% chance of divorce when you have a severely disabled child.
Wow.
It puts such pressure into the relationship that the relationship just dissolves and people go their own way. And we know of many, many couples where that has been the reality. The one thing that we made a covenant with each other is that we would stay in this relationship until Corbin passed away, which in some ways we were told was going to happen very shortly. We were told that she would not make it to 8 years old.
Wow.
So she's 37 years old now, and she's going strong and getting stronger every day. So this is the love of our lives, and this is the one that probably has changed our lives the most. And this has been, hands down, the most important thing in our lives. And this is Thank you for showing her picture. This is fills in a little bit. She functions at about a 2-year-old level. So nonverbal, and she's got a few words, and she knows who Jesus is, by the way.
And I mean, I love it that, you guys, when she was living at home, that you guys would pray for everyone in the family, and she knew our names, and
go through the list.
Go through the list of all the cousins.
Yep.
We did.
Well,
yeah.
Every night she's here, stays over. We just live about 7 blocks from her. So she stays over and here at the condo. And boy, that's still a tradition. When we eat, man, her hands are out first because she knows she can't touch any food until we get this blessing out of the way. And sometimes in the middle of it, she just says, amen.
She wants to eat.
You know how long her dad's prayers can get.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the missionaries have to be prayed for. Come on.
Well, I think that kind of leads us into some things that I want us to talk about in painting the picture, because I think that one of the things I admire the most about your journey with Corbin is how you have helped her live as an adult and yet honored where she's at, developmentally, but she's always like... Pat, you dress Corbin better than I dress. I mean, she is fashionable. You make her exercise, and she has when she was in school, she had a better social life than I did. She would go bowling. She was
horseback riding.
she was just amazing. Like, you guys did things for her that I feel like, and I don't know if you were consciously aware of this, but this is how it came to me, was you always treated her as if she was a person with inherent dignity. You always treated her as if she was somebody to be honored. And you treated her that way. And I'm just maybe wondering if you could speak to that, like what your mindset was or why you made those decisions.
Well, I think early on, I went through a really hard time, and I just can remember pounding on the sink in the kitchen saying, God, you think I can handle this, but I can't. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because after that experience, it just seemed like God just showed me ways that I could function. And ways that I could maintain some of the dream that I had for a child, but also how I could make life better for her and also for a number of people that were surrounding us at that time. It's interesting that there were 2 other families that had children about the same age as Corbin from Korea. Same thing had happened with them. So trying to figure out how we could improve her life. I got very involved in working with the school and just saying, if you're going to do integration, then you have to integrate them as if they were the kids that are in those classes that they're being integrated into. And we not only looked at the classroom, but we looked at extracurricular activities. We got them to be involved with Special Olympics so that they could develop some of their other skills and to stay physically fit. It was very important for me to make sure that she looked, not only that she acted appropriate, but that she looked appropriate in every situation that she was in. So we did work hard, and it also helped to have young women living with us. To make sure that her clothing was fashionable, that she looked good at that particular time. And she loves to look good. She was able to go to proms. She went to actually 3 proms because she was invited to the prom a year before she could go because she was the right age. She loved wearing those dresses. And to this day, she loves looking good. She knows when she looks good and she knows when she doesn't look good. And she can choose, if you put 2 things out on the bed, she'll choose the one that she wants to wear. So she's
Well, we have a picture of her at her house, I imagine, in front of her house with some of her housemates. And the first thing I noticed is, look at those boots. She's really stylish there.
Well, the house is an interesting thing. The young man that's got his feet sort of up and is wearing tan pants is Rob Krolik, and Corbin and Rob went to school together from the first grade forward. And that family we got together with after Pat did a lot of research about what kind of model of living would be best for Corbin and maybe for some others. We bought the home that you're looking at. And then the two outside, the young man and the young woman who's got her hand up in the air, Leo and Katie, the four of them have been together in that house for 13 years, which we bought with the Kroliks. And so we can kind of predict that this is where Rob and Corbin will be for the remaining years of their life. But there again is one of those things that people come into your life and they impact it, they touch it in ways that you cannot imagine. But the security of knowing that Corbin is not going to be brought from house to house to house to house, that this is her home forever, and that sharing it with these other three roommates. This is a family. They love each other. I mean, she can come on Sunday afternoon, but about 4:00, it's gome, which means go home. You know,
she's had enough.
Yeah, she's had enough. This is boring. And
a lot more interesting at the house.
Yeah, Leo's doing something over there, and I don't know what it is. So we got to get over there and see. And plus, they eat at 5. So,
very good.
One of the sidebar things that has been one of the greatest blessings of our life is that Corbin was having horrible seizures, and this gives some context to what she is today. At 7 years old, her pediatrician, a neurologist, went to a conference, heard about some experimental brain surgery in Chicago at Rush Presbyterian, and he looked into this, and she went to Rush Presbyterian for weeks and weeks and weeks of evaluation to see if a surgery or brain surgery could be of help. They finally did operate on her brain, and they essentially opened up the side of her head and cut all the fire tracks that were sending all these terrible seizure activities across her brain. They cut them, disconnected them, and she has not had a grand mal seizure since then, and it's absolutely revolutionized her life. And instead of screaming all night, she just slept well, and that smile came back that we had not seen for lots of years. And that is the reason why she is the child that she is today. And there's a blessing. What were the chances that guy went to a conference and heard this talk and thought that this could be possible, and then get the insurance company to pay for it?
Yeah.
30 years ago, it was $250,000 to have the surgery done.
Wow. You talk about it, the challenges that Corbin faces. I mean, really, she is a very happy person. She's very pleasant to be around. She's very easy to be around, and she does have her own language and words, and you can kind of find a way to communicate with her and sing and have fun together. But I know that she also faces very real challenges in her everyday life. Maybe you could kind of paint that picture just a little bit of the level of care that she needs and what some of those challenges are.
Good questions.
She needs basically help with everything. It's becoming more of an issue because she's started to have quite a severe tremor. So things that she could do, small motor skills that she could do before, she cannot do anymore. She's never been able to brush her teeth or do a bath or a shower on her own, or even really completely dress on her own. You can dress her part way and then she can do the remaining pulling her pants up or something like that. But she's always needed help, and she will continue to need help. She is, because of her tremor right now, she seems to be a little bit more unsteady on her feet, but she knows it. And so she'll hang on to you. So whereas she really wasn't a very good hand holder in the past, she's now, reaching out for your hand or your arm and wanting to hang on when she's walking in certain circumstances. The house that we did purchase, we do have a provider group that staffs the house and programs for the house. So we are not involved on a daily basis the way we used to be in taking care of her personal needs. But we are obviously still very involved in monitoring what goes on there. We're still her legal guardians. And she spends at least, she's with us at least 1 or 2 times a week for dinner, when we take her out for dinner, or she comes over on Sundays with us. We go to church together when we could go to church. And by the way, she misses going to church a lot. She loved church services. We kind of compromised. Virg likes the traditional service. She likes
rock and
roll. So we kind of go to the rock and roll, and she is a great dancer to all of that music. She loves it. But she does require a lot of skill. You don't trust her. You keep her in your sight at all times. You never know if she's going to all of a sudden decided that she wants to snuggle up to a stranger somewhere. She's very good at that because she likes people. So there's a lot of things that you watch.
Yeah.
That have to be monitored and looked at.
I'm wondering, as you've walked in this journey, what role your faith has played, because I'm sure that maybe in the beginning, or maybe even today, like there's questions of like, God, why did you pick us for this assignment? Or how has your faith maybe grown through your parenting journey with Corbin?
I think one thing, both Pat and I are type A's, and to all of a sudden have a child that needed to be completely taken care of is something that we obviously would not have signed up for. But she's probably been the greatest change agent in in our lives. One quick example is that if the two of us ever speak sternly with each other, raise your voice and, doing kind of the basic couple arguing thing where you raise your voice for positioning and all that sort of thing, this just freaks her out. And all of a sudden she starts saying, scared, and it very, very quickly, changes your whole temper business, that you got to settle down. And so that's been some of the good positive things I think that has happened, is that, it shapes. I can't imagine having done this and being involved in this without having your faith and having people around you who regularly say, we're praying for you, and that's been immensely important. And I think that it took a while just to come to accept some of these things, but once you accept it, and then you're just praying on a regular basis, Lord Jesus, help this child. We're away from her now to the majority of the week, as other people are taking care of her. And, so I think part of the thing is just praying for God to bless her and take care of her. Well, obviously, one of our thoughts is we thought she was going to pass away early in life. She's getting stronger and stronger, and she's 37 and I'm 76. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to start running the data on that. And So that's part of our prayer too, is how that God will provide and bring people into our lives and into, more specifically, her life.
Yeah.
As it relates to her long-term care. I don't know if you have something.
I think one of the things that happened when she was doing, we call it weekend ride, it was horseback riding lessons, therapeutic. And the place where the riding took place was in a close to a boys' home. And these boys would come and help lead the horses and so forth. And after, when one of the boys was going to leave, he just said, I cannot believe, and I will never forget what Corbin has taught me about life, and that you can be happy no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what you can do and what you can't do, that you can be happy. And I think that really said to me, Corbin has a mission in life. She does have a purpose, and it's up to us to just make sure that she's in environments and places where she can be happy and where she can influence people. And it's amazing the people that she's influenced. We just had a neighbor, we were over at their house with Corbin, or I should say their condo with Corbin. And she came over the next day and she said, I just cannot believe how happy she is. She said, she just made me happy.
Yeah.
And I think that's Corbin's purpose. That's Corbin's purpose. Even to have her house manager say, I need a Corbin fix. So,
well,
yeah.
She can be like Velcro, I'll tell you that. It just, she loves men, and
which is scary.
Which is scary. And she has a particularly wonderful manager right now in the home, a young man, and boy, they're buddies. She just follows him every place he goes, and but sometimes she'll just be sitting eating. It sounds like she doesn't do anything but eat, but she'll be eating, or she'll be in the car, and all of a sudden she just say happy, and she means it.
Yeah.
It just says I'm happy. I'm happy, and it comes at the strangest time, but there's something that kind of overwhelms her. And it's not that we're saying, oh, Corbin, are you happy? She just says it out of the blue,
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Corbin was baptized by Virgil's brother's wife.
Yeah, your sister-in-law.
My sister-in-law. And she...
Her aunt.
Yeah, your aunt. But anyway, Jean asked Corbin, they were standing up there, and Jean just asked Corbin, she said, Corbin, do you love Jesus? And Corbin says, yes. And she was, I really believe that she has a spiritual life, that she does know Jesus, and that she does experience the support and the strength that he gives her, because her life is not easy. Yeah. It's not easy. And I think that for her to be able to function in as many environments as she's able to, and to continue to be happy, is a gift from God.
Well, I think, sometimes, Krista, we see children, and you've seen them in the grocery store and whatever, and a child is extremely angry, and these special needs kids, and they just seem like they're, out of control, and it helps put things into perspective. I mean, a lot of times I see that kind of thing, and I say, dear Jesus, thank you for giving me this child, and because I can deal with this, but I don't know if I could deal with this other thing. And, probably if we had that other thing, somehow God would give us the strength to be able to handle that too. Yeah. But, you're always grateful, for the small things that you're given. And to this day, Corbin continues to learn. So we celebrate crazy things, and, she'll learn some little skill that we've never seen. I said, Pat, did you see what she just did? And so, your celebrations are at a different level.
Yeah.
But when other people, like our neighbors, celebrate that along with us, it adds to the joy. And, for your audience, you almost can't say, an inappropriate thing to parents, to to say to them, I've been watching you and you're doing a great job, and God bless you.
And that's a gift when people will say that to you.
It's a wonderful gift, and it's something that you don't necessarily expect, but when it happens, that's something to be joyful about.
Well, that's a good reminder of how we can help support families like yours, and just offering that word of encouragement and
absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good. Pat, did you want to jump in?
Well, I was just going to say, people that will include Corbin in a conversation when they're talking to us, that she's, part of us is one way that people can really help too. It just makes it so much easier when they see us as a family unit and not just Virgin Pat. No, by the way, this child is over here.
Yeah, that's good.
To talk to her, to teach their children how to greet or talk to someone. People that will actually say, James, this is Corbin, and maybe you'd like to say hi. And those types of things are so important, I think, not only for the parents and for the child that you're talking to, but for the typical child as well, to understand the dignity and the place that these people have within life, within society.
We had a family that was of one of the girls that came to live with us, young women, and then she had her own family, and the extended family got to know Corbin. They would take her every year to Lake Okoboji in Iowa. Can't imagine a lake in Iowa, but they do have them. But we went there, and but they took her for New Year's, and they kept her up till midnight for the big celebration, and they just included her in the family for years and years. It was such a blessing that a family would take her and trust themselves to be able to do that. And you never forget those things, and that's why, for the smallest thing that you ever do, if you're in a restaurant and you see somebody that has a special needs child, to go over and greet that family, it means a lot to them. That you just say, I've been watching you guys. You seem like a really happy family, and God bless you for doing what you're doing. Whatever it is, I don't know. But the recognition of that, instead of skirting around the outside so that you don't make eye contact, so that you seem like you're avoiding them and everything, consider not doing that, and consider moving forward instead of, retreating away from a situation. A lot of these people are very isolated and they're very lonely, and you can really make a difference in a special needs family by simply acknowledging that they're there and that they're dealing with this every single day.
Boy, that's some good pastoral advice. That's really good. I like that. I'm just wondering, as we kind of close out here, as you think about Corbin's future, you kind of alluded earlier, you're in your 70s now. Not Pat. She's still definitely in her 50s.
Very young.
But I'm wondering, is that scary? Because many of the people that are going to watch this cast, maybe they're in their 30s and they're just at the start of their parenting journey with their special needs child. Maybe the future looks really scary for them. Maybe give us a little insight as to how you've thought about the future.
I think for me, it was looking at Corbin even when she was very young, and we had some people that helped us with this, and that is to look at life planning for her, so that you start to begin to see her having stages of life just like a typical person would. And that for us was, once she graduated, when that high school graduation happened, and she did walk across the stage for high school graduation, she then started her day program. And then I knew that by the time she was 25, she needed to be on her own in a group home situation.
We were told that.
And we were told that very early on, that don't delay it, because they're just like a typical child in that there is a place and a time when they need to move on and they need to develop that separate life from you. And I think that's what she's done now in her group home. She has a life that is separate from us. She has a family, and they definitely function as a family. And that is what is going to hold her as she goes forward. She also has some great cousins that actually have been involved with her, and their mother, who is my niece, will be involved with Corbin after we're gone in relationship to some of the legal aspects of her life. So we try to keep looking at the future. Don't deal with it at a point in time, but try looking forward at their whole life so that as you move through these things, you can deal with them. If I had to deal with them at points in time, I don't think I could do with it. It gives me a lot of time to kind of think about it, to begin to look at what's going on around us, what's happening in the community, what's happening in our faith community, what's happening in her group home or in her work environment, and try to look at how her life needs to progress and what can I do to prepare her for that and prepare us for that and our family as well.
And you have the benefit now of reflecting on the past, and younger parents maybe they don't have that benefit yet. But as you think about and reflect on your journey now that Corbin's 37, is there anything that you wish you could go back and tell your younger self? Like if you had a word for maybe some younger parents that are at the beginning of the journey, is there anything you wish that somebody would have told you who was older to your younger self and said, like, hey, this is something you need to know?
Pure worry is not a good strategy. It really doesn't accomplish anything. And I would suggest to people that there is nothing better. And we did not have the web when we started our journey, but there are so many resources on websites of conversation groups that could be really of help. You can't stop talking to other people to get strategies and to get insights. And there are a lot of people out there that want to help. But you have to ask for that help. One of the challenges that you have is to not isolate yourself. And there's a real temptation to do that. I mean, my life is over. I've got this special needs child. All I can do is to just marinate myself in this situation and not live as full a life as really is available. And some of that availability comes through other people sharing your experiences, picking up insights, and that's what I would say.
And I would say early on, we did participate in some groups, but Virg isn't a real groupie. So we did that in the beginning, and you sit there and you listen to other people and you go, you know what? They can handle that. I don't think I could, but I can handle what I have. I can handle this situation. And you gain insights on how you should move forward. But I do think that it's true. You cannot marinate yourself in the situation. You need to branch out. You need to have your own interests and your own things that you want to accomplish in life. I'm so grateful that I continued working. I know that not everybody can do that, but for me, that was incredibly important to do because I'm the kind of person that could go gung-ho on anything. So that really helped me to temper. And I think for me too, is to focus on the long term. Don't focus on just today. Today will change. Today will be different. We will be different tomorrow. She will be different tomorrow. And to not just get so bogged down in what's happening right now or your concerns right now, but just say, there's a future here and I need to prepare for the future, and I need to be ready for the future, and it's going to be a positive future. And I know the Lord is looking out for us. I know he's looking out for her, and it's going to be better than it is today, if today happens to be a bad day.
So what I hear both of you saying is, Virg, I heard you say, one thing you wish you could tell your younger self is don't worry. Like, don't just drown in the worry. And Pat, what I hear you say is be hopeful, like to really trust in the Lord and look to the future. And is that kind of the words there?
Yes, very much so.
The biblical thing of, God will provide. And that's exactly what happens. And it doesn't make any difference if you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. Life has a way of getting at you. And this is what we've been given. Why? We have no idea. And I think we're past, asking questions like that anymore. And now it's you're keeping your sleeves rolled up. And that is our job here until the day we die, as it relates to Corbin, to just provide the very best life for her that we possibly can.
I definitely think that's something you've taught me, Virg. I mean, you taught me very early on as like, you can either, you're not one for self-pity. You just told me very bluntly, you can just sit there and feel sorry for yourself and your situation and being raised by a single parent, not having a dad, or you could get up and just show the world that you're better than that and work really hard and make something of yourself.
And you did.
This was your very empathetic fatherly advice to me.
Oh God.
This is how you talk about emotions in the Leih family.
This is how the Leighs talk about their emotions.
Yeah. I touch, I feel.
But who knows why each of us has the cross that we bear. That's been a different journey for me than it's been for you. And yet God has his ways and his purposes of bringing us to holiness. And we can either cooperate with those or we can waste a bunch of time fighting it.
Absolutely.
So, well, it's been an honor to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and just helping so many people. I know this is going to be an encouragement to many of the friends who watch this, and hopefully they just are inspired by your wisdom and your story. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
It was fun. You're my favorite theologian.
Yeah, you're my
favorite niece.
I don't want to say you're my favorite uncle because that might put me in a bad space. But
dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yes.
Thank you, Krista.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope that you found this broadcast encouraging. I hope that maybe the life story of my aunt and uncle is two real people who've been slugging it out for decades in this space, that they will help provide you with a little bit of a vision as you talk to the Lord, as you walk down that path with the Lord, and that he would be working in your life and guiding in your situation. The life is hard. God he's promised us salvation from our sins, but he hasn't promised us an easy path. And all of us have to go on that journey with him. But I hope that in all things that you will honor the dignity of those around you, that you will look at people in the eye, that you will say a greeting to them, that you will see the special needs families in your faith community, and that you will be an encouragement to them and ask the Lord how you might come alongside them and just offer some encouragement in their situation and what they're walking through in that hard space. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and share this with a friend that you think will be encouraged by my aunt and uncle's story. Thank you so much for watching. God bless and good night.